Hi, MC Bling Daddy here with the 6th video in the CBC Coding Engine series. Last time we looked at for loop variables in order to set up for the for loop itself. This time we'll use the latest element that has been added to our engine, for loop creation, so we can generate loops that repeat a controlled number of times, i.e. for loops. The blocks that provide parameters are marked by signs. They typically provide operations that are needed to control the loop. Since the expressions appear in the code area after the engine executes, we'll look at them in detail there. Note that redstone dust connects the main for loop engine blocks to other blocks that it depends on in the if and then else sections that we've discussed before. Okay, let's create the for loop code in the code area. As with the loops we've discussed previously, we enter loop commands after the head of the loop and before the end. Finally, we set up the end of the for. We've got commands to prepare for the next loop iteration. And then we've got the required loop commands to restart the loop and to locate the loop endpoint. And finally, we'll generate the end of loop code. All right, let's look at the new code in some detail. We've seen how we set the loop variables already. Ini, fin, and inc. Before the loop starts, the current loop value, cur, is set to ini. To enter the loop, we have to use a transfer command. The entry/reentry point for the loop is here. Before we can do the loop test, we have to determine how many passes remain to be done. And we have to use the Minecraft computation functionality to do that. The full computation calculates fin minus cur plus 1. The reason that this is not detailed in the for loop pseudocode is that the computation is backing code created by the engine in the for loop generation functionality. So you don't have to, just like when we set cur to ini just a few seconds ago. Here's where we subtract cur, the second step in the calculation. And here's where we add 1 in. The number of remaining steps at the end of the loop is fin minus cur, but at the beginning of the loop where we are, we have to add in 1 because we haven't done the step yet. Now the test for the loop is no longer set for height, but rather to determine when there are, and when there are not, remaining steps to do in the loop. This is determined by when rem is no longer 1 or greater. Of course, here is the if logic to determine whether the test is passed, i.e. is true, or not, i.e. is false. When the test is not passed, the else command transfers control to the for loop end. As before, the loop commands place gravel at the WC. Then they raise the WC 1. In preparation for loop repeat, the cur counter is incremented by inc. Then control is transferred to the beginning of the loop. And finally, we set the endpoint for transfer of control when the loop test is false. But one last thing to do before execution is to change our sidebar to report on rem. So let's execute the code and see what it does. Well, guess we're finished for this time. Next time we'll set up some subroutines and use them from inside our loop. And we'll start constructing something. Join me and find out what. Thanks for watching.